At that very hour some Pharisees came and said to him, "Get away from here, for Herod wants to kill you." He said to them, "Go and tell that fox for me, 'Listen, I am casting out demons and performing cures today and tomorrow, and on the third day I finish my work. Yet today, tomorrow, and the next day I must be on my way, because it is impossible for a prophet to be killed outside Jerusalem. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often have I desired to gather your children together, as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing. See, your house is left to you desolate." What kind of picture of Jesus is the one that you find most attractive? The one that is called to mind when you think of this mysterious and enigmatic figure? Is it the gentle Jesus, meek and mild, the lustrous-eyed, very sensitive depiction, as in Zeffirelli's 1977 film Jesus of Nazareth? Or do you prefer a bit more machismo in your depiction of Jesus, the Jesus perhaps of Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ, where, under the most appalling sufferings, perhaps too graphically depicted, the Jesus in this depiction just grits his teeth and barely cries out, as if he's like a militaristic American hero. And these rather more muscular Jesuses are often seen in cartoons of the Gospels. Well, I think the choice is perhaps culturally determined. The more muscular, macho Jesus is a reaction to the gentle Jesus, meek and mild. But I think it's important to realize that, in fact, the full humanity of Jesus means that something beyond these culturally determined, limited depictions is somewhere near the truth. And in this passage, we have Jesus behaving in a very courageously dismissive way when some Pharisees, for once being quite sympathetic towards him, warn him that Herod wants to kill him. And he dismisses Herod with an insult. "Go and tell that fox I am casting out demons." And then by there's a great change later on when he is prophesying over Jerusalem. Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets. How often have I desired to gather your children together, as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing. This is a very much more feminine depiction of Jesus, insofar as one can use gender stereotyping. But I say feminine because the image of a mother hen clearly is feminine, and it is an image taken from the way God is described in at least one of the Psalms. And maternal imagery for God is found at various points in the Old Testament, as has often been said. So what are we to make of this enigmatic, mysterious figure? Well, of course, he is irreducibly male. When God chose to be incarnate as a human being, he had to choose one or the other. And I don't intend to go into the reasons or try to speculate, because I simply don't know why God chose to be male, though many reasons have been given. But I think it's important that the humanity that Jesus displays, that he possesses, is a complete humanity. He is much representative of the female as well as of the male, of the feminine as well as of the masculine. And this lament over Jerusalem shows Jesus exhibiting some of the more maternal characteristics of God, the cherishing of a mother hen. And it is curious that he is doing so while declaring judgment on Jerusalem. He is effectively condemning the city, prophesying its destruction, a destruction which actually occurred. So what sort of a judgment is this? Well, it's a very curious kind. It is a judgment where there is yearning love. It is a judgment where Jesus is lamenting because his own city, his own people, have persistently failed to follow God, have persistently failed to respond to God's love. And as a member of that people, and as incarnate Son of God, he feels the pain perhaps in two ways, a double dose of anguish. And the judgment is not the kind of judgment you would perhaps associate with divine judgment. The judgment where God smites those who have sinned, destroys cities that have offended him. One thinks of Sodom and Gomorrah and other passages in the Old Testament where God is depicted in this way. But this is something very different. Jesus is not calling down fire from heaven. He's not calling down punishment on Jerusalem. It is in the very pain he experiences, the very love he shows, that he is actually alluding to the fact that Jerusalem is judging itself. Simply by its rejection of the prophets that God sends to it, it is engaging in a self-judgment. It is bringing about the very destruction that it is seeking to avoid. And from this point onwards in Luke's Gospel, and as the progress of Jesus in all the Gospels comes up to the time of his passion, we can see that the sense of foreboding increases, because the ultimate act of blasphemy is about to occur. The city is not just going to destroy one of the prophets, but is going to kill God himself. And this should never be taken in some sort of anti-Semitic way, as if it were Jerusalem as a Jewish city which is destroying God, as if the Jewish people are guilty of deicide, as medieval anti-Semites used to say. Because this city of Jerusalem that kills God himself is the city of all of us. It is a representative city. It should have been Jerusalem, the sacred city of peace, in a piece of biblical style wordplay, but in fact it has become, and in a sense continues to this day, a city of violence, of conflict and division. And in this way it is every human city, it is every community that by its violence, its division, its failure to achieve reconciliation, rejects God. It kills the prophets. But in the supreme irony, which is seen in the gospel message, it is in this very act of ultimate blasphemy, this killing of God, that God's cosmic work of healing and reconciliation can begin, so that all cities, riven with conflict and division as they are, can start to become, along with Jerusalem, genuinely sacred cities of peace, communities where God's rule will not be rejected, God's calling of people to worship him in love and truth, in harmony with each other, and in worship of God. And this means that even acts of judgment, even denunciations of Jerusalem, such as Jesus engages in, look forward not only to his own crucifixion, but also beyond that, to the great act of resurrection, which is God's yes to the no that the world has said to him in killing him when he comes among them.